Question 7. In question 7, we already know that zt equals to n1t cosine omega ct plus theta plus n2t sine omega ct plus theta. And theta is uniformly distributed in 0 to 2 pi, and also n1t and n2t are WSS process. Then we also know that n1t, n2t, and theta are independent. The first question is we have to find the expectation of zt. In this case, we just have to expand the zt as the expectation of n1t cosine omega ct plus theta plus n2t sine omega ct plus theta. Since given by the question, we already know that n1t, n2t, and theta are independent, so we can do the split. That should be the expectation of n1t times the expectation of cosine omega ct plus theta plus the expectation of n2t times the expectation of sine omega ct plus theta. Since n1t and n2t are WSS process, the expectation of n1t can be a constant. We can call it eta1, and the following expectation of cosine omega c plus t, we can use the definition that should be 1 divided by 2 pi, the integral from 0 to 2 pi cosine omega ct plus theta d theta, plus the second one should be the same. We can call it a constant eta2 times 1 divided by 2 pi, the integral from 0 to 2 pi sine omega ct plus theta d theta. Since we know, given by the property of the cosine and sine function, the integral from 0 to 2 pi, both of the cosine and sine function, the sum should be 0. So the answer is eta1 times 0 plus eta2 times 0, and the answer should be 0. And that's the answer of the question A, the expectation of zt. Question 2, we have to find the RZT1 T2. Given by the definition of RZT1 T2, that should be equals to the expectation of ZT1 times ZT2. Now we have to expand this formula like the expectation of n1 t1 cosine omega c t1 plus theta plus n2 t1 sine omega c t1 plus theta. And the following one should be the same. Then we have to do is to expand it and do the product like this, and the answer should be the expectation of n1 t1 n1 t2 cosine omega c t1 plus theta cosine omega c t2 plus theta plus the expectation of n1 t1 n2 t1 and n2 t2 cosine omega c t1 plus theta times sine omega c t2 plus theta. Then plus the expectation of n2 t1 n1 t2 sine omega c t1 plus theta times cosine omega c t2 plus theta. Then plus the expectation of n2 t1 n1 t1 sine omega c t1 plus theta sine omega c t2 plus theta. And in order to simplify this formula, we have to make some assumptions. One is that we can assume that T2 equals to T1 plus torr. Then we can look at the first part of this formula. That is, the part has already been marked in the red pen, and that is this. The expectation of N1 T1 times N1 T2 given by the properties of the WSS process, we know that the expectation of x t plus torr times xt equals to r torr. So this part, given by T2 equals to T1 plus torr, we can name it Rn1 torr. And also, this part has a following this part. This part, given by the property of the cosine and sine function, we can transform it as 1 divided by 2 cosine omega c T1 plus T2, then plus cosine omega c T2 minus T1, and that should be torr. And in this case, the N1 T1 times N2 T2, we can use the formula we have already divided as eta 1 times eta 2. And also N2 T1 N1 T2, that should be also be eta 1 times eta 2. And then the last one should be N2 T1 N2 T2, and that's the expectation should be Rn2 torr. And we can do the similar transform to the sine function to transform the product of the sine cosine to the sum of the sine cosine in order to make a simple integral. Then the answer becomes Rn1 torr times Rn1 torr times 1 divided by 2 pi integral from 0 to 2 pi cosine omega c T1 plus T2 plus 2 theta d theta plus cosine omega c torr plus 1 divided by 2 eta 1 eta 2 1 divided by 2 pi. It's the integral from 0 to 2 pi sine omega c T1 plus T2 plus 2 theta d theta minus sine omega c torr. Then plus 1 divided by 2 N1 eta 1 eta 2 1 divided by 2 pi, the integral from 0 to 2 pi sine omega c T1 plus T2 plus 2 theta d theta plus sine omega c torr minus 1 divided by 2 Rn2 torr 1 divided by 2 pi integral from 0 to 2 pi cosine omega c T1 plus T2 plus 2 theta d theta minus cosine omega c torr. And the answer should be 1 divided by 2 times Rn1 torr plus Rn2 torr, then times cosine omega c torr, and that should be Rz torr. So we already proved that the Rz T1 T2 and dt should be WSS process. Then the last question, question C. We have to find RZ0. Since in question 2, we have already know that RZT1 T2 equals to 1 divided by 2 Rn1 tor plus Rn2 tor times cosine omega c tor. In this case, we have only to do is 1 divided by 2 Rn10 plus Rn20 times cosine 0, and that should be 1. So times 1, and the answer should be 1 divided by 2, the expectation of n1 squared plus 1 divided by 2, the expectation of n2 squared. And that's the answer of the question 7. Thank you.